My name is Lauren, and we are currently moving through a series called Renew. This series is based on Paul's words in Romans 12, verse 2, when he says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." See, when we have a relationship with Jesus, he transforms us. So throughout this series, we're going to be talking about how we are meant to live differently as a result of being renewed by Jesus. So we're going to be discussing what it means to be renewed and what our lives should look like as a result. Because when we've been renewed by Christ, it changes the way we interact with those around us. It impacts our relationships. And being renewed should lead to celebrating people, serving them, and simply enjoying being around others in a way that adds value to this life. So before we get into this week's topic, let me tell you a quick story. So a couple of years ago, I made the decision to go out to BC for Bible college, and this meant that in February of 2022, I spent my first birthday without my family, without my friends from back home, and this is a pretty big deal to me. And so my one friend, Abby, knew how homesick I was at this time, and so she decided that she would not only plan my entire day to make sure that it was good, but she also messaged so many of my friends and family from home and got everyone to record a birthday message for me, and she put a whole video together of all my happy birthdays, and it was just really special. So this is an example of a friend of mine going above and beyond in love for me. She didn't have to do that much work or put in that much effort or spend that much time, but she did, and I'll always remember it. And I think we could all use more people like Abby in our lives. We could all use more people who show up, who care, and who go above and beyond for us. Those people, they are living from a place of renewal in Jesus. I know for me personally, I've never found the whole idea of going above and beyond very appealing. It's not the easy thing to do, and so I wonder if that's why we tend to notice when someone else does that for us. Because it doesn't happen very often, so it stands out more. And I think if we're all honest, we could all agree that it's easier to just do the bare minimum. Sure, we could do more, we could say more, help more, show up more, and be there more, but no one's asked us to do it, so we just don't. But this bare minimum approach doesn't actually come from a bad place. Sometimes we just do it because we're tired. I can't always give to someone else when I'm in a place of needing someone to help me right now, and that's okay. And sometimes the extra effort just doesn't seem like it would have that much of a benefit. Like we couldn't possibly have enough time or enough money or resources to make that much of an impact, so we just don't do anything. Sometimes our bare minimum is just the result of fear. Maybe you want to help someone out, but you're scared to mess it up or embarrass yourself or do or say the wrong thing. And other times, it's the result of just a lack of motivation. I know that's true for me. Maybe you're just not motivated to do much more than what you have to do right now. And so no matter the reason, hear me when I say this. I think on some level, this bare minimum approach to helping others is just true of all of us. But I wonder if we stop to consider it, if this is the kind of person we really want to be. Do I want to be someone who lives life at the minimum? Someone who does no more than what they have to do? Or do I want to be someone who does a little more? Someone who chooses to go the extra mile and someone who lives a little bit more renewed when it comes to helping others. So in this series, we're talking about what it means to live the full, amazing life Jesus came for us to have. And part of living this life is choosing to go the extra mile. So we see this very clearly through Jesus' example. Everything about his life, his ministry, his death and resurrection was about going the extra mile for the people he loved. Paul, one of the first leaders of the Christian church, put it this way: God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And that's found in Romans 5, verse 8. This alone is a perfect example of Jesus going the extra mile. Jesus didn't wait for us to ask him to. He didn't wait for us to prove that we deserved his sacrifice. And he didn't wait for us to get everything right or show our gratitude or even promise that we'd never mess up again. Rather, while we were still in the middle of our sin, Jesus went the extra mile. He died for us simply because he loves us. And Jesus didn't just do this for us and then tell us not to worry about it in our own lives. No, Jesus called us to follow his lead and to do the same for others. God used Jesus' life to show us a picture of what God is really like, and we're meant to go and do the same. When we go the extra mile for others, we actually get to show other people what God is like. Looking for moments when someone goes the extra mile is one way to look for and see God at work through people every day. And so before we get to Jesus' actual words, let me give you a little bit of background about what was going on at the time Jesus said what we're about to read. So during the time of the Roman Empire, when Jesus was on the earth, Roman soldiers had all the power. They could get away with pretty much anything. And during that time, there was a practice which basically said that a Roman soldier could demand someone to carry their belongings or their heavy armor or their gear for a full mile, no questions asked. So if a Roman soldier didn't feel like carrying something, it was a common practice for that soldier to just pick a random person and force them to carry it for him for a mile. Could you imagine being that person that was just forced to carry someone else's stuff? We'd probably respond and be like, you can't boss me around or you can't tell me what to do. But instead, take a look at what Jesus tells us to do. In Matthew 5:41, in his Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. See, Jesus wants us to go another mile. He actually calls us to do more than what is required of us. And we are called to help someone even when they've done nothing to deserve it. Jesus is encouraging us to go above and beyond. He's encouraging us to do more than just the minimum. So let's not wait to be told or asked, but let's just help for the sake of helping because that's what a renewed person does. So let's think of it this way. Someone who is renewed in Jesus does more than what is asked of them. Jesus is asking us to partner with him to do more for others, whenever and however we can. It's an invitation to follow Jesus' lead right here, right now, by going the extra mile for others. Now, let me be clear. I'm not suggesting that we should do so much for someone else that we neglect taking care of our own selves. We all need good and healthy boundaries to know when we've done enough. But Jesus is asking us to do more than what we are obligated to. He's calling us to go the extra mile. So, what do we do with all this? If we want to be people who do more than what is asked of us, where do we start? Well, I think a great place to start is with that question that we asked earlier. What kind of person do you want to be? Do you want to be someone who does just the minimum, or do you want to be someone who goes the extra mile? And so before we can move forward, we have to decide who we want to be. And then let's make a decision to do something that you don't have to do. Remember, the extra mile is going to look different for all of us and for each situation that we're in. So think about just one way that you can choose to go that extra mile even this week. So what do you think would happen if you did more to help around the house this week without being asked? Or what might it look like if you were generous and kind to someone who you know really needs it? What if you did something unexpected to help someone at church? I want to add that this is like a muscle that's built over time. It's not something that we necessarily love right away, but we can build this muscle of serving, loving, and caring for others. And in time, I'm sure that we'll be glad we did. And finally, remember that sometimes you need to let somebody go the extra mile for you. Allow people to serve you and to love you above and beyond how they usually do. Allow people to bless you. And maybe in the season you're in right now, that is what you need, and you don't have the capacity to go the extra mile for someone else. And that's part of life. So if that's the season you're in right now, don't be afraid to ask someone to walk with you. In fact, your small group is a great place to start. In your small group, you're surrounded by people who want to help you. So maybe this would be a good time as a small group to talk about how you can walk with each other and love and serve one another better. Remember, someone who is renewed does more than what is asked of them. And that's what I hope you'll consider doing this week. And so as you continue discussing with your small groups, think about this question. What is one way that I can go the extra mile for someone else this week?